All right, welcome into Blockchain Basement. On today's episode, we're going to be talking about how all the richest people in the world and global elites are here to steal your Bitcoin. All this and more on today's Blockchain Basement. Bum, 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 bum. You ready for this? I'm ready. Welcome.
If you're gonna screw me, at least pull my hair.
Hell yeah. What you got?
They could start chopping off fingers. They're like, give me your seed phrase, but I don't know it.
Out to give the numbers out. And I was like, no, hang up the phone right now.
Or like when it dropped in 2020, was it like exciting?
400,000 to 600,000. The generational signals are now.
Level. So I don't even know if we're gonna get back below there, but if we do, that's kind of where we
Charger.
All right, welcome in. We're going to have a really good episode for you guys today. A lot happened over the weekend. Hope you guys all had a really, really great weekend. We've got Kelly Kellum from BitLab Academy. We've got the Drew. Great episode over the weekend. A lot of big people enjoyed your blockchain bunker episode.
Yes.
So that went really good. What was that about?
That was more so about the potential for banking collapse, what would happen after a banking collapse, most likely. And, just kind of the steps that I'm taking to make sure that I'm financially sovereign outside of a, house of cards type monetary system. But then also digging into kind of the things you can do day to day in your own life, micro gardening, just different things that, a lot of preppers are normally used to. But as, financial people are seeing the banking insecurities, that question's been coming up more and more out of just the financial sector because there's a lot of worry about that. So I kind of just addressed that head on and, we're building out from there. So it's been fun.
Yep. Obviously a lot going on this weekend. Also, shout out to all of you guys. We've got Chili Rainbow, the Deadwood, the Laughy Faces, Quarterly Crawler, Fluffy Sheep, Justin Eubanks, Phil Nye, the Crypto Guy, Quarterly Crawler again, Crypto Tweak, Baseball and Crypto JPM, Desert Crypto, Shake and Bake, Small Face, No Toe, Crypto Tweak, Manawak, Remington, Peralt. And I did see a lot of you guys, those crypto or the OG status people, the members. Some of you have already been minting some of those NFTs. Shout out to everybody in the Discord. I know there's been a lot of really good conversations in there. Talking with Uncle Tinfoil Hat over the weekend. He was mentioning, I think it was Shade Protocol, a privacy coin. I thought you guys might be interested in looking into. There's the thumbnail investor. But big announcement before we get too far into the show. The NFT, the Claim NFT is done. It's an absolutely free NFT. You do have to cover the gas yourself, so you need a little bit of an Ethereum in your wallet. It's on the Ethereum network. Connect a wallet to the website. All you have to do to get the link is go into the OG chat on Discord or join YouTube memberships, and it will be, we shared it with the community tab. It was shared to members. This is more or less, if you want to look, this is kind of what it looks like, the NFT here. It's nothing crazy. It's basically Blockchain Basement sub NFT. It shows that you were a subscriber before 15K. Don't have too many plans with it just yet, but we'll maybe do some fun things with it in the future. So Crypto JPM, I don't hate you. I just didn't see your name. I see you right there now. Welcome in.
You
love
said
all
his
of you.
name.
I did say his name.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. And this is the Bitcoin way. We love all of you, love the OG guys. So just wanted to share that. You guys can claim that now. It is live in the Discord. It's live on the community tab of the Blockchain Basement YouTube page. So if you're not seeing it, it's probably because you're not a member yet. You can, if you're trying to join the Discord, once you get in there, you can at Derek Alien Taco, I think is his @ in Discord. It's Taco. He's been on the show multiple times. He can help you with the Discord stuff. And like I said, it's just a fun thing for everybody to have and be able to show and share, over the years. And then maybe we'll do some fun stuff in the future. So, all right, Bitcoin coming in at 26,700, holding strong over the weekend. A lot of big news late last week. I'm sure you guys talked about it Thursday and Friday with BlackRock, and then we heard a little bit more about Fidelity. We are going to talk about that today. But Drew, kind of catch me up. What did you guys discuss as it comes to the BlackRock ETF on Thursday/Friday?
Yeah, so on Friday we were talking about basically all the different brands that BlackRock owns and how to avoid them in the grocery store. Declared revolution through Panda Puffs is what Nick kind of went into, which, it's awesome voting with your dollar. But basically, BlackRock put the actual application in for the ETF, and we were kind of highlighting, I think they've had like a 575 success to a 1 non-success application history for this type of process. So yeah, we were kind of digging into that. What are the implications of it? I mean, they oversee the direct oversee of $12 trillion So there's a lot of potential for this to, increase the value of Bitcoin through, MicroStrategy and that trust. But, there's also a lot of curiosity on this potentially being a Trojan horse. BlackRock moving to Bitcoin and, gathering a lot of power. Obviously, we've seen what they do with power in other monetary situations and ESG initiatives and things like that. They're now blowing up in the faces of corporate America. Starbucks completely backing off of its movement this month. So, it's pretty interesting to see, as a community, how we're receiving this large institutional interest, right? And obviously, like for me, I'm only in Bitcoin for the sovereignty aspect of it. If the number go up, great, but it's the control that I'm here for. So I lean on to the concern about BlackRock maybe, kind of being a wolf watching the hen house.
Yeah, I've got some interesting theories on that we're going to get into a little bit later. And huge shout out to everybody else rolling in. Manawak, Ziggy, XXX, Casino Doggy. Corey says he got his blockchain basement NFT. And OG Ladies too said this is the Bitcoin way. So shout out to all of you guys. Also, if you could smash the like button early right now, the earlier you guys do it, the more it helps. The goal is always to get to 420 likes. I see you guys in the comments. You always tell me when you are the 400th like or the 500th like. So if everybody could do that right now, it does help to get this message out there because this is exciting in the sense that this is good for our bags. If you're an investor in Bitcoin and crypto, seeing some of the largest asset managers in the world putting in applications for exchange traded funds, spot Bitcoin ETFs, that sort of stuff. It's going to be very good. It's very bullish. I couldn't be more excited about accumulating Bitcoin and Ethereum than I am right now. There is another side to that coin, though. There is a trade-off, which we're going to talk about. There's some very specific language within the filing and the wording of the ETF about who has what rights to what when it comes to a contentious hard fork. Or hard fork in general, forks in general. We're gonna talk about that a little bit later in the show. Kind of some game theory, I guess, about what could be the angle there. But in the short term, I couldn't be more excited. I've been accumulating Bitcoin right now. I'm very happy. I was buying it. Anytime it goes down, I wasn't buying a lot of alts on those dips, but I was buying Bitcoin and Ethereum, and then boom, this news comes out. Jumped right back up above 20. It was a little worrisome, I think, for a lot of people seeing it fall below 25. Maybe it's going back to 20K or even lower, which again, I wouldn't bother me. I just accumulate more. But
what impeccable timing, though, too. I mean, Bitcoin's so unpopular in the mainstream media, and you're the world's largest asset manager just decides to move into it publicly while everything's so bad.
Exactly. Well, and that's what's so interesting to me, and we're going to cover this a little bit later. Most of the world's asset managers have already been moving towards it at the very least, having some exposure. But this is a very big, I think, stamp of approval that a lot of other money managers and fund managers, like if BlackRock's getting into this, like we need to be taking a more serious look. So I got a lot of tweets I'm going to blaze through here pretty quickly to kind of touch on these narratives, but I think this makes a lot of sense. He says, I think Bitcoin has gained a narrative with the recent ETF developments. Alts don't really have that. If we get an up move, I'm expecting alts to massively lag. If we get a down move, I'm expecting alts to puke harder. I'm not probably as extreme in this feeling as he is, but that's generally my sentiment too, is just because this is happening, don't think all your alts are going to run for the next 9 months. I still feel Bitcoin and Ethereum accumulate right now until the halving. You get alts running after the halving when the whole market's bullish, but really, and it's exactly what we've seen playing out in these last really month or so. When Bitcoin goes up, alts are going up a little bit, but then alts last week absolutely got crushed on a 3% pullback from Bitcoin. Now Bitcoin's recovered that, and many of the altcoin pairs aren't even close to where they were just recently. So, just keep that in mind. This is another thing, again, using these, could be circumstantial, but again, more data when you're trading, especially swing trading long terms, is helpful. Two signals that have incredible hit rates, which this is very true. Ethereum Foundation selling Ethereum marks local tops. So if you keep an eye on the Ethereum Foundation wallets, and basically they've got this graph here. Here's where the Ethereum Foundation unloaded some of their ETH. And then the other thing, this I have seen to be very, very true. Tether FUD / DPEGs marking local bottom. So there was more Tether FUD last week, and then what happened right after the Tether FUD, just boom, Bitcoin ETF announcement comes out, and you get that big run up. So time and time again, I hear that Tether FUD. It doesn't really ever scare me. Obviously, USDC, depegging recently had people more sensitive about it. This is another thing that bodes well for investing, for the price of assets over the next, 12 to 24 months, really. U.S. liquidity continually to increase. Outflows from the Fed and reverse repo seem to be picking up over recent days, which is liquidity positive. So you can basically see here, net liquidity is this green one here. It's this red and the purple one here, net liquidity.
Okay.
So you got, as the Fed assets are coming down, you've got liquidity on the rise here. This is basically since maybe May, June, starting to tick back up in the end of this year. You could see, obviously, throughout all of 2022, the liquidity just getting absolutely sucked out of the market. And we can see when it was going down like this, that's when stocks and crypto and all sorts of other things were just getting absolutely destroyed. So just another thing to keep an eye on. I just like seeing those. This is where it starts to get a little bit scary when it comes to GDP and interest payments on the debt. Our debt's been continually running away. So interest payments by the U.S. government spiked to 3.5% of GDP in Q1 2023, up from 2.4% in Q1. That's the largest annual increase on record. This percentage is projected to continue to rise over the next decade, with interest payments becoming a much larger share of the federal budget. So again, not the highest it's ever been. You can see, where is this? In the 80s, it looks like, late 80s, we were up at 5% of our GDP was interest payments. But what's scary is the amount of our debt that's going to be maturing that I keep talking about over the next 2 years, basically in 2024 and 2025. These numbers are going to just absolutely skyrocket when it comes to our GDP. So I do agree with this. Caleb Franzen, Kelly's buddy there, he's been pretty spot on, and I tend to agree with the Fed with their rates. The Fed Reserve stair-step their monetary policy in a clear way, as I said in the weeks. Once they make a policy inflection point, they don't flip-flop. I expect the pause to be an end, where basically saying they did 2.5, 5, 7.5, 7.5, 7.5, which is exactly what they said they were going to do. Another 0.5, 3.25s, and then 0. He's not expecting another 0.5 after that. Hey, SAS Finance, good to see you, and everybody else. So, all right, I'm just blazing through some of these because I have other stuff I want to get to. But if I don't, then they all stack up and. Yeah, but all of this stuff, you guys, I drop all of these links in TJ's Alpha Discord. So if you guys want to see any of this stuff, a lot of it's just data and information, so you guys can, make informed decisions of your own. But this is just fascinating to me. It's something we've talked about a lot. The kind of duopoly or duplicity kind of going on in the real estate market right now. So the housing inventory shortage continues, with new listings falling 23% over the last year and total listings down 6%. There are 39% fewer homes for sale in the U.S. today than there was 5 years ago, which is just fascinating because it's basically people aren't moving because they don't want to get out of the interest rates that they're in.
Well, is there a possibility also, because there was so much mobility within the housing market around the global economic shutdown timeframe, and through 2020 into 2022, that maybe a good portion of that is kind of the pendulum swung the other way for a little bit?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Basically, so many people either refinanced or moved during that time period when interest rates were low, that they have to be extremely motivated to move right now. Unless there's death, divorce, job transfer, there's really not a lot of motivation to move because you're looking at much different rates. So if you look at real quick on this graph, the orange line, this is through Redfin, orange line is new listings, and this is year over year. So, you can see traditionally in years past, we've got way more. And what is this? The gray line, the gray was 2020, so it happened.
Okay.
That's why you see the volatile swings there.
Yeah.
So in 2020, a lot of people, then real quick, nobody was buying or selling. Then everything got listed, and then it falls off. It always falls off towards the end of the year, but summer is generally your peak. So it'll just be, this is far below the bar. It'll be So what happens though is you still have new construction happening. So you've got people that new listings are coming on the market, but generally they're going to be more new homes versus used homes. So it's interesting that, because a lot of people are saying, oh, real estate prices are, and it's in a huge bubble. It's bound to collapse. But it's all a result of supply and demand. So if the supply is still tight and the demand is still there, there's always a certain level of people moving around. It may not come back down as fast as people think. Now, obviously the commercial real estate market, it looks like it's due for a correction, but I'm just fascinated to see what's going to happen with all of these. With the residential market, it seems like it still has more room to go up for a while because the supply is getting so tightened.
100%. And there's less people interested in doing the work. There's the construction firms have a really hard time hiring. That's how I made a living, is by trying to convince this generation back into it. It's a tough thing to actually staff those projects and keep them staffed. And it got even more difficult when these handouts from the government came. And people realized, oh my gosh, I could actually get a pay increase by not doing anything and just being worried about my, health and, looking for government relief. Now that's gone away, and the material costs are starting to come down. So there's going to be an influx in production of new homes, I think, coming up in the near future. I think that's going to be paired and kind of in contrast to our exponential increase in spending on manufacturing facilities here in the United States. I think that just on the GDP thing, I did share this this weekend. It was basically just highlighting that, as of April 2023, the U.S. spent $200 million within that year on manufacturing facilities, which is really a good breath of relief for me, because I don't want our country to be beholden to trade embargoes and things like that, sanctions that are obviously going on right now. We kind of built this interconnected global trade system that's falling apart because of what's happening. And to see the U.S., basically in my eyes, this looks like a great new deal. This looks like another new deal that's coming up after this war. So I think we'll be producing quite a bit here in the United States.
Glasses Drew is Alpha Drew.
You think so?
Oh yeah. I'm like trusting you more on this
Really?
stream, and I always trust you. So now I'm like, let me take notes.
Well, expound on that a little bit when you say great new deal, like the new deal. What?
Yeah. So,
like a new alliance almost, or
No, well,
restructuring, or
the New Deal essentially just built out the infrastructure for the United States, and it was a good way for monetary policy to really have a tangible reason for the Fed to print and to have.
Welcome to OG status, Joey Daniel.
Hey, yeah, what's up?
All right, go ahead. Sorry.
No, yeah, it's okay. The Great New Deal was basically just an injection of liquidity and work and employment for the country, and to get it back up on its feet. You print a lot of money, or you create a lot of bandwidth, even if it's backed by something tangible. You can restart your economy after a large multinational conflict through a new deal, which we've seen in the past in the United States. And this recent influx in manufacturing is potentially, in my eyes, the U.S. realizing that, oh my gosh, we've outsourced all of our production to all of these countries, which are now poised against us, and we better start producing here locally once again.
In addition to that, if you look at the birthing rates in China as well, everybody's worried about China taking over. But in reality, you look over the next 40 years, and they're I don't want to say scheduled, it's the wrong word. It's slated to be like that their population might drop by almost 50% by like 2040 because of the single family or the single kid rule that they have for so long. Although they've changed that, it's still in the sort of zeitgeist of how people operate there. And if we're not investing in factories now, there's going to be nobody to build all the stuff that has been being built in the Chinese factories. So it actually works out, to our favor to be making these investments in not commercial real estate, but the factories, manufacturing here at home.
Yeah.
And with those manufacturing facilities, there comes the need to house the new people in new locations. We see it all the time with these businesses as they explode. And just as a further note, I've been talking. I have a lot of family in the military, a lot of military sources, and there's a major crunch on the ability for the Russians to create new tanks because of these sanctions. They don't have the chips and the infrastructure systems in place. No matter what kind of garbage is being shilled on the media about all these new tanks taking over, like these sanctions that we've done. Believe it or not, U.S. controls a lot of the actual integral parts manufacturing here. So we're going to be wrapping our arms around that and controlling it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people underestimate how bad Russia's hurting from the sanctions. I mean, that really cut them off in a really major way, which is obviously why they're pretty upset. But I think it's understated the amount of impact the United States basically just said, like, okay, all your dollars, all this stuff that you have, all these assets, we're just gonna blacklist you.
Yeah.
And like that had a huge ramifications all around the world for many different things.
Yep.
This kind of, to your point of what you're talking about, this is one of my most concerning things as time goes on. U.S. national debt, not just the debt, but the debt as the percentage of GDP. And this is another thing you've seen, throughout history, is once it starts to get, past this tipping point of about, a little over 120%, 110%, it almost becomes unrecoverable.
Right.
Now they got a lot of tricks up their sleeves, a lot of, financial gymnastics, but today, with it sitting at 121% of the GDP, and we know that the interest rate and the maturation of it's about to ramp up dramatically, we could be sitting at 150% in just a couple of years.
Right.
that's when it becomes real scary. If you're 150, and that's if the percentage of debt payment is 150, you're 50% more than what you're taking in. It's just going to keep compounding and compounding and compounding in
That's
the wrong
called
direction.
being bankrupt.
Yeah, exactly.
And then drastic measures to follow to change that, right? That's what we've seen in the historical past. We've seen the New Deal and Bretton Woods be instituted, and a complete reworking of financial structure when these things happen, and they happen right around every 100 years. So just the way it goes, it's going to get feisty. We're going to see major changes.
Yeah, that's not even to mention all the other issues you have with the budgeting here in the U.S., considering things like Social Security and Medicare, where Social Security was basically accounted for based on the time horizon of the expected life expectancy for people when they're expecting people to die pre-60. And now the majority of people live to 75 to 100, and in addition to that, we have all this debt, and we don't have the ability to take care of the social health care things that we had already promised the people. So there's a lot of things that are going to have to come here. And because of all this, I don't understand why the hell the U.S. is not taking advantage of Bitcoin and other digital assets, because if we got ahead of this, we would have zero debt issues in probably 20 years. Everything would be fine.
Yeah.
Well, BlackRock is the company. So.
Yeah.
This is interesting. Well, let me ask you this, Kelly, because I know you obviously spend a lot of time BitLab Academy. For those of you who don't know, BitLab Academy, all things from what is Bitcoin all the way to chain analysis, on-chain data, all that sort of stuff. You can teach you kind of section by section, lesson by lesson, how to understand this space, wrap your whole head around it, and become an informed investor. So when you're talking to people that are kind of newer on this stuff, and you're, say they understand, okay, I can see the macroeconomic environment. I can see what's going on with the world. I see BlackRock creating an ETF. I want to start learning and getting involved in Bitcoin. What should I be doing, today in this current environment? So I'm taking all this information that you and Drew and myself just talked about. I agree. United States dollar isn't where I want to be putting my money. Where should I start? What is your answer to somebody like that?
Well, first thing is I would really suggest going through, especially by the way, on BitLab Academy, there's a free beginner's course there, and there's a blockchain 101, Bitcoin 101, and a cryptos beginner course there. So that's where I would start first, understand what the heck Bitcoin is and what blockchain is. But then secondarily to that, I really feel passionately about this. I feel like everybody, to have a good idea, a good base understanding of how investing works in general, not just Bitcoin, but the benefit here with blockchain is this came from the blockchain. Go through understanding on-chain analysis, not because you're trying to get a trade signal or any of that, but because with on-chain data analysis, there's several different charts, and I think we have 20 different charts or 20 different lessons that we do in the BitLab Academy area. But you can also look into a lot of this stuff on your own. Just be ambitiously curious, because with on-chain data, you get to see what different types of people, large wallets, small wallets, institutions, retail, long-term holding versus short-term. You really get a very cultivated, wide understanding of how different types of behaviors for different types of investors provides profits or losses. So you get to understand on a real data-driven level with graphs. So it's like a picture book. So it's easy to grasp once you look into it, but you get to see where is a smart spot to invest. Because what happens is everybody goes through this arc. You're kind of pushing back against it because it's new. You're not familiar with it, and then it starts getting all over the news. Then you find out your buddy made $1,000 or $10,000 or $1 million, and then you buy. And then the market drops. You go, why the hell did I buy? Because you waited for the hype train. You got on a hype train. You know what the hype train is? It's when you get on a roller coaster, and it's not exciting when you're going like this. It's exciting as soon as it crests that top, you start feeling that anticipation, and it drops. At the top of that roller coaster is where most people enter the space on their first purchase, because they don't understand the behavior necessary and what the signals are to buy. Well, with on-chain data, you can see there's a couple very key things. MVRV Z-score, reserve risk, and short-term holder cost basis, long-term holder cost basis. I'm not going to go into detail on all those, but just by looking at those four things, you can identify where fundamentally the price, everybody's scared Warren Buffett says, you buy when there's blood in the streets. When there's a lot of fear and there's the capitulation has sort of pervasively affected the space, that's when you're starting to see opportunity. So be able to buy into fear and sell into strength. So that's what I would say.
Robert Young says, don't be a dum-dum.
That's exactly it.
That's the other, that's, long story short. Also, welcome to OG Status Destroyer 1911. And Danny Carty says, smash those like buttons, really help support the channel. Zach Spady says, what's up, Famry? Oh, Famry, I get it. That's pretty good. So, okay, all of that to say, whether you love Bitcoin, whether you choose to invest in Bitcoin, Ethereum, crypto, digital assets, or traditional assets, I mean, if there's not, here's a chart that will make you feel like you need to be invested in something. It's just very simply, you can minimize me so they can see the end of the chart. Yeah, there you go. You can see the purchasing power of the U.S. consumer dollar. This goes back to
That's a downward slope, right?
Yeah, this is since 1995. You obviously all of you have seen the one that the dollar's lost 97% of its purchasing power since existence. This is just since 1995, and that's down 50% since 1995. Well, you've got the S&P, even adjusted for inflation, up almost 700%. So. This is what's happening. This is the separation of classes. This is why the rich are getting richer and people that don't own assets, it's becoming harder and harder and harder to jump that gap. So what's amazing about digital assets is that's all, you can pull this down. You can accumulate in very small portions. I think that's one of my favorite parts. It's getting easier today for retail consumers to get access to assets that will appreciate over time, like Bitcoin, like Ethereum, dollar, and you don't have to be rich. You can put $25 a week in, $10 a week in, whatever you want, $5, $100, doesn't really matter. You can slowly stair-step your way into assets that will appreciate over time and help you get out of the cycle that you're in. And that's what we're so passionate about here at Hit Network, Blockchain Basement. That's why we spend all of our time trying to teach people and educate people about this stuff. We're big believers in using digital assets to get out of that cycle, but I don't really care what you use as long as you get out of the cycle and experience, freedom. That's what we're all.
But along with that, and tell me if you ever experienced this, Drew or TJ, that when I had less money, I spent frivolously. The more money that I got, the smarter I was with my money. And that's a good note to have for everybody, because when you talk to somebody that has a lot of money, they're making moves that have a 1 to 3% difference in something else. And when you have a smaller amount of money, you could care less about 1 to 3%. But if you don't make that part of your habit, then why do you deserve to have more money? Because you're not taking the money you have seriously. And so, yeah, were you ever like that?
No, yeah. I mean, when I didn't even notice the recession happened in '08. I was painting houses and digging holes and stuff, and all of it was the same for me. But, day to day, I was a young guy. I was just spending my money on food, and I was heavy into music. So basically homeless and penniless. So my breakfast was just basically beer and country fried steak. I would always kind of spend and not really worry about it. I never really cared about making money until I had a woman that I wanted to live out life with. I met my wife, my now wife, and that's when the switch flipped. Like, okay, I'm gonna actually, put the pedal to the metal here. And just back to 1995, man, what a great time. All we had to worry about was Bill Clinton's blow jobs he was getting. And Blockbuster was still in. Yeah. I drove by a Blockbuster sign, and it was just like, it was something like everything was all beautiful around it, and it looked like it was out of The Last of Us. Yeah. Like it had just,
and you remember how exciting it was on Fridays to do the Blockbuster, and what's the new releases? Oh, all of them are gone, so we got to go to the other aisle. Yeah,
1995 was definitely a simpler time. Everything with the internet was getting ready. The .com boom was getting ready to start. About to be up and to the right for a really long time. So, yeah. Definitely simpler times, and I'm sure that's what our kids will say 30 years from now, But
100%.
Really fun. Somebody, let's see, says, we at the government don't like small peasants, people having access to gains like this, says JMZM, and which we're about to get into. The veil is definitely dropping when it comes to allowing retail investors access to digital assets. So this is, for your buddy who is waiting on Bitcoin, crypto, digital asset investment, saying, "Oh, I'm going to wait until somebody, a bigger asset manager gets involved." I just thought this was funny. It was a tweet. Somebody said, "I'll simply wait until a larger asset manager endorses Bitcoin to become bullish." Well, BlackRock, biggest asset manager, Vanguard, they're involved. Fidelity, they're involved. Morgan Stanley, they're involved. JP Morgan, they're involved. Goldman Sachs, they're involved. Capital Group, I'm not sure, but probably on some level, but not that I know of off the top of my head. BNY Mellon, very involved.
Oh, yeah.
Bank of America, very involved. T. Rowe Price, I'm not sure about some of these smaller ones, but every one of those other ones,
And let's talk about how many negative headlines that they've put out.
100%.
And this is why you look at fundamentals rather than following narrative. The fundamentals have shown them actively investing in either traditional assets like Grayscale or other MicroStrategy.
Most of them, BlackRock and Vanguard, Fidelity, Morgan Stanley, that's who owns MicroStrategy.
So BlackRock coming in, think about how big Grayscale is. They have over 630,000 Bitcoin. So if BlackRock's coming in and they're currently the largest, asset manager in the world, then whether they're going to get 600,000, 100,000, or 1 million Bitcoin, think about these drops. It makes me, I can't help but think some of it's calculated and that they're driving price down so that they can get the better price for their base investment to have, because they can't have a small amount if they're going to open up an ETF that pension funds and sovereign wealth and all this stuff that's going to be a part of, which don't second to guess that, because it's coming.
No, I mean, I think it was Kathy Wood from ARK Invest did an analysis that if they were to put, I believe it was like 1 to 1.5% of their clients' assets into Bitcoin, it would send it to like 250K Bitcoin. It's that simple. It takes very little, and that was just BlackRock. That wasn't Fidelity. That wasn't Bank of America. That wasn't a lot of these other ones. So, that was the big news. Happened the 15th. BlackRock documenting Bitcoin breaking. BlackRock files Bitcoin ETF. We've been talking about trying to get a spot ETF. Now, ironically, the Winklevi filed for this 10 plus years ago. Barry Silbert from Grayscale has filed for many Bitcoin spot ETFs. Now, there's some minor details in this one with the way it's a trust.
But the Winklevi are outsiders to the system.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what we're going to touch on.
Is the ultimate.
Exactly.
It is the system,
and you touched on it earlier. Drew, when you said it's basically like 99 point something % of every ETF BlackRock has ever filed has been approved. They wouldn't file this most likely unless they kind of already knew it was going to be approved, already kind of had the answers to the test, so to speak. I did see, don't read it out loud. Where did that question go? Oh, SAS Finance asked if the big R's own Bitcoin. No, they own BlackRock. They own, which owns MicroStrategy, which owns almost everything else, and is about to start getting involved in Bitcoin. And if they own the Bitcoin, this ETF, then yes, they do. They
basically own the CB.
They own all sorts of stuff.
It's not just who you know; it's what you know on who. That's really where it comes down to.
So yeah, this is Lark was talking about it. BlackRock manages about 10 trillion assets. Only about 10% of all Bitcoin is sitting on exchanges. So about $50 billion worth of Bitcoin. 0.5% of BlackRock money moving to Bitcoin would buy every single coin available. Let that sink in. So only $50 billion worth on exchanges right now. So if they bought every single thing that's available on every single exchange, that's 0.5%. So what do you guys think that would do to the price?
That would just make for an insane cycle. Like if they went and did that, then you would also see Russia moving in. I mean,
they already are.
I mean, but
publicly,
like I wouldn't put 500 past it if that all were to happen at the same time. I don't think it will. Eventually, we'll see that in 10, 15 years. God, I mean, that would just be an absolute upheaval. Like, people would lose their minds.
Hey, we got 420 people watching right now. So if all of you stop what you're doing and hit the like button real quick, we'll just nail that 420 like goal, and then we don't even have to think about it anymore. So boom, real quick. And if you're watching on mobile, you have to close out of the live chat, hit like, and then you can open the live chat right back up. But all right, here we go. So if BlackRock spot ETF gets approved, again, I think it will. It's undeniable that Operation Choke Point 2.0, which we talked about at length earlier on this show, was orchestrated to drive out crypto native companies and bring in large traditional firms that are buddy-buddy with the U.S. government to try to control Bitcoin/crypto, which is more or less what Kelly was just referring to, saying, the Winklevi and even Brian Armstrong, CZ, I'll come back to this.
They would be the ultimate market maker.
Right, exactly. They're trying to push out the people who started the industry that weren't part of the institution beforehand and set up, if you have looked into Prometheus, we did a good deep dive out on the BitBoy crypto channel. And what we're seeing right now with BlackRock just getting kind of pushed right into the seat that's going to be very, have a lot of control. So Operation Choke Point was going after not just the banks. Again, Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank were two big banks that were most of the banking options for crypto. And SVB. Yeah, those. What was the other one? Silvergate Bank was the other one that got extreme pressure from all government places. Then they went after Binance US. They went after Coinbase. They're really basically setting it up. Circle through BNY Mellon. That's part of the institutional.
And they left BNY Mellon completely alone.
Yeah, BNY Mellon didn't get touched.
Nope.
Weird how that works.
Yeah.
And so that's basically what Ryan Selkis was saying. I mean, they're basically coming right out and saying it. He says the mask is coming off. This is a quote from, basically tokenization is the future, but it will only be allowed at the Wall Street firms that own our financial regulators, like Michael Hasu and Gary Gensler says, owned regulator at the American Bankers Association event. So they're basically saying, yes, this is the future, but it's our future. It's not
your future.
Your future.
It's the future if we control it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and isn't it amazing that Coinbase is going to custody the Bitcoin
Right.
for
BlackRock.
BlackRock
Yeah.
while they're being sued, and XRP is being sued by the SEC while Ripple is involved with the FedNow program, which is rolling out July 1st.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's there's definitely more going on here that meets the eye. It's all a lot of smoke and mirrors, which we know, we talk about it a lot on this channel. So that's just what you have to remember. So, again, Lark saying, don't forget, BlackRock is part of the club. You and I are not part of the club. They're coming for your Bitcoin. Get ready. And this is kind of this is leading to what I believe in. I saw a lot of people talking about potential attack vectors if a lot of the Bitcoin gets accumulated by some of these institutions. This is why it's important that everybody runs their own nodes, because despite what anybody tells you, you can gain consensus on the network. There is a consensus,
right,
and it can change over time. So if you're invested, the really main incentive in running nodes on Bitcoin is to either maintain the network as it is currently, or an incentive to try to potentially change it. So I want it to remain the way it is. So I need to run a node to help maintain that. Other people might not want it to maintain the way it is, and they might be incentivized to go run a bunch of nodes even at a loss just to have a potential to change it. And so that discussion becomes more and more relevant as we move forward.
you see that Mike Vollmer, fun fact, the maximum amount of time the SEC has to approve or deny the BlackRock ETF happens to come around the same time of the halving.
Oh, wow.
So you get just beat down. You're just going to get punched in the face by mainstream media. Sell, run. It's securities. It's scary. We're going to get you. And then the halving will come. Oh, your guys are cool. Off to the races.
That would be, imagine if they approve a spot Bitcoin ETF early 2024.
And whoever's in charge of the White House is going to be scrambling to fix the economy, injecting quantitative easing through any mechanism available at the same time.
Bitcoin's was going to be pumping through that anyway, but if there's a quick access to big money, oh my god.
Yeah, that's the derivative. That's the $2 quadrillion that I've been always wondering about. Even just a toenail of that animal would be insane.
All right, so do we want to talk about the other side of the coin? So we're all going to be rich in 24 and 25. Yay!
Those that hold and don't capitulate,
yes,
will be able to participate and not. This whole thing, we talk about it on the BitLab daily stream all the time. When you see the wick, when you see a wick on any asset ever, and you see the very top of that wick, some poor schmuck bought the top. That's the only way the price got up there is because somebody sold up there to somebody else, right? So don't be the guy that bought the top of the wick. Be somebody that buys somewhere near a bottom. Do not succumb to the emotionality that these large institutions are going to do when they push this market around.
Nope. Well, and here we go. So here's where it starts to get interesting in the filing. So it says a hidden gem in the BlackRock ETF file. Have any of you guys read this part yet?
No.
Okay, so here we go.
Oh yeah, this is I read it once, but it's the fork thing.
So in the event of a hard fork of the Bitcoin network, the sponsor will, if permitted by the terms of the trust agreement, use its discretion to determine which network should be considered the appropriate network. For the trust purposes, in doing so may adversely affect the value of the shares. And then down here, there is no guarantee that the sponsor will choose the digital asset that is ultimately the most valuable fork. So, there's no guarantee that they're going to choose the most valuable fork, but they're basically saying, as the holder of the coins, we are going to choose which fork to support. So if you guys think about the last most contentious fork in Bitcoin, you're talking about Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. And so imagine what it would be like if you had an entity like BlackRock with a ton of Bitcoin and what they would do, how they would support it. So this is another kind of interesting breakdown. Obviously, there's John W. Radcliffe was talking about these same languages. So there's a strange point in the wording in that BlackRock ETF about hard forks. And this is a really good catch. Traditionally, when a hard fork occurs, users get tokens on both forks. Large exchanges have generally honored this for custodial tokens. So, for example, if you were Bitcoin, if you held, say you had 10 Bitcoin when the Bitcoin Cash fork happened, you would have gotten 10 Bitcoin Cash, tokens, or basically the equivalent amount of the tokens you had on the fork, regardless of which fork remained the primary fork. However, that's not what the BlackRock ETF says. It says that they get to choose which chain to follow, and then they apparently get to keep the tokens on the other chain for themselves, that's kind of an assumption there. It didn't really articulate that either way. It didn't really say what happened to the other coins.
I think it'd be more likely they dump whichever one that they weren't going to be involved with.
Yeah, or they could do whatever they want with it. Basically, is the
probably
way
the one that's uncontrollable is the one they'd be dumping.
So this says so this is the theory. So they could launch government-supported proof-of-stake fork, force all of their customers into it, and then keep all of the real Bitcoin for themselves. I doubt this is their intention, but this is the way it's worded. It certainly sounds possible. So they could, create a narrative and a strong push for a different type of Bitcoin fork. When it forks, they move all of their, customers here. You get, Bitcoin green,
BlackRock Cash.
Yeah, or no, green Bitcoin. Okay,
Yeah.
like we're gonna do this clean, energy efficient. You get Bitcoin green.
That's what Bitcoin is already.
Yeah. And then they keep all the real Bitcoin. So again, it's just really interesting. I don't know if that's the direction it's going to go, but we need to be very careful with all of these wording, because the end goal, I guarantee, is for them to hold and control as much Bitcoin as possible, and then loan out against it, derivatives, and make, just like they do with a lot of the other assets. They hold the real value assets, and then they make loans against it, and then hold a lot of debt against it. But they're the ones holding a lot of the real assets. So, and the same thing. This is another kind of analysis of it. BlackRock. This is kind of how they could. His way to potentially do it. So runs first and largest Bitcoin ETF, becomes wildly successful, heavily funds Bitcoin development, proposes regulatory and eco-friendly proof-of-stake fork, loses community opinion but adopts fork as Bitcoin anyway, as do most governments. Proof of work is just for pirates in El Salvador, and so it's like this could be a way that they use an attack vector to accumulate, basically use all the money to buy as much Bitcoin as they can, hold it, and potentially try to change the network. Now, I don't know if they will. There will always be people that value proof of here. You can pull this down. We'll come back to that in a second, but value proof of work and the way decentralization, freedom, permissionless. Because as soon as they start changing away from those core values, they can make it a permission network. They can start blacklisting people. That's the whole point, is to separate money from government. And if they start using government money within this, it gets real dicey really fast.
Right.
So.
And that's been the whole intention of the WEF and the Bank of International Settlements. They hate the fact of, Bitcoin's transparency, its immutability. That's one of their biggest pet peeves, alongside, stable coins. But I think that narrative of, we need to have a system that's controlled could come from this conflict, what we're seeing between Russia and China, and this whole trade debacle that could be used as a talking point a year or two from now on why we need one that's America centric.
Well, what do you guys think, or either one of you, Kelly or Drew, about that theory? Do we is this a positive thing or a negative thing? BlackRock Bitcoin spot ETF. We know it, it's going to be great for the price, in the short term. In the long term, do you see anything, any of these type scenarios we were just talking about? Could you see something like that playing out, or do you think that's unlikely?
I would, on the one hand, if they were to do something like, let's call it malicious like that, where they're really trying to really direct narrative around and effectively use this as a Trojan horse to take a lot of Bitcoin and move people to another network, I think in a way that would actually be in some ways detrimental to I don't want to say the value of Bitcoin, but in a way it would go against their underlying interest, which is money and making money. So it makes me question that. I think we might be reading a little too much into this potentially, because of the distrust we have right now with government and financial institutions. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, there's no way to know. I don't know.
Yeah. No,
My
I mean,
distrust of the government has no end. It's a cavern that continues to float. So I don't think we're reading too much into this. I mean, there's a lot of proof in the pudding on why we shouldn't trust these organizations. They tried to shove us into an ESG basket, which put us, billions, hundreds of billions of dollars in the hole. But now people are waking up, and even Starbucks is backing off the ESG garbage. We see a lot of companies realizing their pocketbooks are being slaughtered by, because remember, as investors, the public, BlackRock is overseeing your assets. So when you start complaining to your attorney general in the state, then you see 22 states come after BlackRock for those stances, and they have to back off. So wake up, make noise, and it can change in your direction. It doesn't have to be bearish. Obviously what I've seen right now with people being asleep and what they've got us involved with, but we are pulling that power back as a people. So, just be loud, be aggressive, and this will be fun.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with kind of both what you just said. And welcome to OG Status Friendly Neighborhood Pleb. We're happy to have you here. It's going to be fun. BTC pumping. I don't think that's true.
It's a little
not
spike.
to 30K.
Or 26.9.
So, I'll tell you what I think about it. I think I saw a couple people in short-term bullish, long-term bearish, because I think a lot of this stuff I'm talking about is going to take a very long time. I'm talking 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years. There's a lot of this stuff could play out. But ultimately, what I think is going to happen, it's going to be very bullish for digital assets and Bitcoin in the near future, which is why I really care about having all of you guys invested and in right now, so you guys can get the best from those returns, and it makes a big impact for your life.
Yeah.
But
hold on. Let me get to the end. Ultimately, what I think will happen, and this is kind of where I diverge. This is where I say I'm maximalish instead of maximalist. Ultimately, what I think will happen, just like has always happened throughout humanity and civilization over time, it's not that we've never had a best sound money solution. Like gold worked as a very good sound money solution for a very, very long time. And what happened was human nature, mankind, through greed, found a way to pervert it for their own gain. Ultimately, I do think that is what's going to happen with Bitcoin eventually. Eventually, somebody, somehow, some organization, whether you can put it through whatever column or filter you want, whether it's a secret society or a spiritual thing, whatever, somehow, or just human nature, somebody will use Bitcoin for their own gain. It will get corrupted. It won't stay perfectly preserved for thousands of years, in my opinion. Now, will that take 30 years? Will it take 300 years for that perversion to creep in? I don't know. So what I'm trying to do is best position myself and those around me to take advantage of that rise while I can. And that's why I think, hey, will it be Ethereum? Will it be another altcoin that, ultimately everybody's using that gets controlled? Possibly. So I just want to be there when it happens. I don't think we're all going to wake up from the matrix and people are all going to be self-sovereign free individuals. I think some will, but there's, if you look throughout history and civilization, you'll see a lot of people want to follow, and they will follow whatever these forces are that can kind of take control. So that's just, without getting too philosophical about it, that's more or less what I think. So, what were you going to say?
Three
Kelly?
things.
And then we'll
One,
come to the super
rotate
chat.
your cup just about 2 letters.
No, we do it this way on purpose.
Yeah, he did that on purpose.
All right, lock semen.
That's right. That's right.
No, in regards to exactly what you just said, I think it's important to realize you always need to look at multiple time frames. Even if you're a long-term investor, don't only look long-term. Have an idea of what's going on now. If you're only short-term, have an idea long-term. And the reason why I say that is if somebody's not sure about where things are going, the volatility in the cycles over the next probably 3 cycles are going to be the ultimate opportunity for anybody that's in now to take advantage of the best personal wealth transfer that you'll ever have in your life, because the volatility will diminish over time. I do think there's going to be one more super cycle that's actually going to overshoot what a previous cycle did, whether it's this next cycle or the one after it.
Agreed.
That's my most likely sentiment about what's going to happen. But or in addition to that, if we're saying Grayscale has over 630,000 Bitcoin, if BlackRock's going to be in contention with something like that, I doubt they're going to be second to them. So let's even do it conservatively, 500,000 Bitcoin. If we're already having a not liquidity crisis, but we have a huge amount of illiquid supply, meaning not funds that are not tradable because people are storing them, then think about between now and 2024, the consistent buying pressure that's going to happen when when BlackRock is buying to build up that base that they're going to need if they're going to do an ETF. And then the last thing, Bailey Miller, if you own any Bitcoin, no, BlackRock cannot own your Bitcoin because you own it. And that's why Bitcoin's so great.
Yeah, he was asking about his iTrust on iTrust Capital. And no, you have it. It's a totally different trust. So, yeah, you would still maintain it. Also, I'm glad you brought that up. So this was a question I was going to ask you guys, and so it might make you think a little bit differently. They don't necessarily have to compete with Grayscale. Tom Crown put it out there. Who do you think will acquire Grayscale first, BlackRock or Fidelity?
Oh, BlackRock. 100%. I think BlackRock.
I think it will be one of the two.
Yeah.
And then they will immediately become, they roll that in their products and they immediately become
That's
one
what
of the
they
biggest.
do. They just absorb, spicy competitors and it becomes part of them. And before you know it, they own everything. And it's just the example of us using it on Friday where you can't go to the grocery store without buying something from them.
How much is that 630,000 Bitcoin worth?
630,000.
630,000 times 26,000 and change. 26,873 right now.
So I guess you could also just look at the market cap of Grayscale.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can look at what's in their trust. I mean, they do have a lot. I mean, that's what other people are like, oh, MicroStrategy has a lot. And it's like, yeah, well, BlackRock already owns MicroStrategy. Actually, I'll be interested to see if they have any. I guess they pretty much Grayscale is all privately owned. I don't know who are the investors. If it's private, we don't even know. They might. Who knows where Barry gets his money?
That was a deep rabbit hole on the beginnings of DCG. I think it was
Digital Currency Group.
There's a lot of questions on where that upstart money. I mean, that was kind of my initial research project when I joined this company, and I would like to readdress that because it was very convoluted on the front end investment and how that company became what it is today. So. And now it owns, CoinDesk, I think. Well, do they still own CoinDesk or did they sell CoinDesk?
They tried. Nobody wanted to buy it.
No one wanted to buy it.
It wasn't worth anything.
It's just like a public shell company that's basically getting its tentacles into everything. That's all it is.
Joe Ryan says, TJ, great show as always. Down 100K on AMP. I have a bunch of dry powder still. Good for you. What alts would you accumulate or would you just hold AMP? I would accumulate. I'm not really accumulating a lot of alts right now. I've talked about it a lot on this show that I really think Bitcoin and Ethereum is where you want to be until you get closer to the halving. We just saw it play out last week where alts got absolutely crushed on a 3% pullback from Bitcoin, and then Bitcoin recovered almost immediately or beyond. Now it's above where it was, and alts far and away have not. So I'm a big fan of Bitcoin and Ethereum right now, and building up and preparing for what's going to happen in 24 and 25. So real quick, coming back to BlackRock, I just wanted to share this. I know you were talking about brands and products that they owned. I mean, their tentacles go so far, so deep. They own basically all of media. So if you just have to find where it tracks back. So Netflix, Amazon, Twitch, T. Rowe Price, Meta, Google, YouTube, Twitter, Snapchat, so it's like they own all of media, and it pretty much all comes back to Vanguard, BlackRock, which they keep having to split off into separate things, but BlackRock, Vanguard, and I think Blackstone, all basically the same thing. They just keep having to be separated because they're owning way too much. So, always fun to look at these. That it all leads back to the same place. So this was the other big news was Fidelity getting involved. Fidelity about to make their seismic move in crypto via both Bitcoin and Ethereum. Sources expect Fidelity to either make a bid for Grayscale or quickly launch their own Bitcoin ETF, one or both coming very soon. So they could either buy Grayscale or launch their own. Here's the article on that. Fidelity Investments, the world's third largest asset manager with $4.2 trillion in assets, preparing to file a spot Bitcoin ETF similar to BlackRock iShares spot Bitcoin ETF. The financial giant is also planning to submit an offer to acquire the largest digital asset management firm, Grayscale Investments. So there you go. I guess the answer is going to be probably Fidelity acquired Grayscale. So moreover, Fidelity Investments is also looking to submit, which actually would probably solve a lot of problems for Barry Silber and what they owe through Genesis Capital to
We
Gemini.
were pretty worried about that when it was happening. Like, it was good to, I mean, at least that didn't, continue a
Well,
cascade.
Grayscale is their flagship,
Right.
thing. So if they sell it, I'm sure they're going to be getting a lot for it. Barry Silbert's Digital Currency Group owned Grayscale sued the U.S. SEC for rejecting its application to convert. So that's what's so funny. They've been trying to get a Bitcoin ETF for quite some time. It keeps getting rejected and rejected. They're suing the SEC. How funny would it be? Oh, it gets acquired by Fidelity. Oh, boom. Oh, it's approved now.
Oh no! So question here though: would they have to buy Fidelity? Sorry, would they have to buy Grayscale at the value of the underlying Bitcoin asset, or at the negative premium that it's at?
I'm sure it's just probably a completely negotiated deal, with a lot of different deal points and payouts and schedules, and because it has to do with, I'm sure, the fees that the trust generates and all that sort of stuff. So sure, I don't think it's just as simple as, oh, you have $630,000 Bitcoin, we're going to buy all of that. You're buying the business, which comes with revenue and fees, and who knows how they calculate all of those details. So let's see. He believes that the traditional finance firms enter the crypto industry. He wouldn't be surprised to see Fidelity offering staking services soon, which would just be wild. Crypto community reacted positively to the news, anticipates Fidelity can file for that spot Bitcoin ETF as it continues to deepen the crypto presence. So, yeah, I think seeing those are the two big dogs, and if they're both, what's up?
Well, I don't know. These are huge. And to people saying that this is a nothing burger, I mean, this is the linchpin everyone's been talking about for how you get institutional interest or clarity and all that stuff. And what we're seeing with BlackRock and Vanguard, Fidelity, and the lesser mentioned but larger bank, BNY Mellon, this is all just basically the powers that be transferring into this technology while scaring the peasants away from being owners of it before they flip that switch. I know it's a large conspiracy theory, but there's a lot of things going on with our payments necessary on our interest payments and our GDP being outpaced by that. That makes me think that the major switch is around the corner within the next 10 years. So it's coming.
It is. So it's good in the long term. Real quick in the short term, coming back to some people that were asking about altcoins. I don't know if you guys shared this Thursday or Friday or not, but basically here's the list of all of the altcoins that Celsius has. They announced they were going to, by July 1st, they're going to be converting all of their altcoins into Bitcoin and Ethereum. So anything that was on that platform, here's, you can see, Cell Token, Ethereum, Matic, ADA, Link, DOT, Litecoin, FTT, DAI, Aave, Unisol. So anyway, basically expect there's going to be some pretty big selling pressure across all of these. Just to get back in there, I just wanted to kind of put that warning out there. Another reason. And again, you're going to see more and more people consolidating back into Bitcoin and Ethereum, and that's part of why that happens. So
yeah, I mean, we could see Bitcoin dominance get up back to where it was before it dropped down to this 2-year range below 48%. We could see it push up back into the 58 to 60% dominance, which would be a huge difference in how your portfolio performs if you're heavily in alts versus heavily in Bitcoin. This is why it's very important to pay attention in these sort of refoundation setting periods in the market where accumulation, but what are you accumulating and why? What's the timeline and what is the context around it? It's very important to pay attention to all this right now.
Absolutely. I think we'll see. I don't know if it'll go as high. Traditionally in this part of the bear market, like he said, it could go as high as 60. I think it's even gone as high as 65 or 70 in the past, but I think 55 is about as high as it'll probably go, but because there's so many more stables now than we've seen in the past. But we'll have to keep an eye on that. So we're gonna move. If you're keeping score at home, Operation Choke Point 2.0, SEC sues Gemini, Coinbase, Binance US, and Kraken. Fed shutters Silvergate and Signature Bank. Denies/allows deadlines to pass for crypto-friendly banks, Custodia Bank and Protego Trust. And BlackRock files Bitcoin ETF. So they're just using the bureaucrats to 100% take over. I also saw this. This is a very interesting development in what's going on with SBF. If you guys remember, Sam Bankman-Fried, the fraudster from the FTX case, seems to be sliding under the radar here recently with a lot of different things. And I'm hearing rumor is he's not going to be getting any jail time.
But he may, I wonder, is there going to be some other news coming out of some, and will it be fully released? If he's flipped on some people, if he flipped on, for instance, he flipped on Gary would that even make it to the news? You know?
No, I mean, I think the word is he's flipping on almost anyone and everyone in the crypto industry just to save his own skin right now. So they've quietly dropped 5 charges against him just the other day. The rest will be plea bargained away, said a source to close to the matter. So if he's able to get out of this, then it'll be really interesting to see. But yeah, that's all. Let's see. That's pretty much all I had for today.
I'm not surprised he's getting off. He's still got the get out of jail free card. He bought our politicians and paid for their advertisement and political campaigns.
You know what somebody said so good, talking about the protections of consumers and what people should do and shouldn't do. And I'm not calling out, I guess I am. I was going to say I'm not calling out President Biden, but they're talking about protecting consumers and such. And if this was such a bad thing, why have they not given any of the money back that he donated to some of the people that were affected by it?
Yeah, it's definitely a double standard with the way he's been treated compared to the way they treat CZ or Brian Armstrong. Casino Dog, you said I heard they didn't drop the charges; they just pushed some of them back to 2025. Yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of rumors and stuff right now. I'm just hearing rumors circling that it's getting more and more favorable for him. That he's basically rolling on anybody he can to get a better deal. So I'll just be interested to see if he ends up not getting any jail time or not getting any significant sentencing from stealing billions and billions of dollars. Like to Kelly's point, it will be absolutely appalling that he just kind of walks while a lot of other people, like the guy, is, I don't think he's still in prison, but basically had his feet held to the fire for developing Tornado Cash that didn't cost anybody any money. It's just it's an absolute double standard. Or again, the way they're treating CZ to me is
it's insane.
It's not balanced, to say the least. So, all right, that's all we really have time for today. Shout out to all of you guys. We love you all. Mike Volmer, R.A. Daniel, Bailey Miller, Cryptos for Liberty, Crypto O, Casino Doggy, Paul Mark, Manawak, RS Crypto, Thumbnail Investor, Rolo, Ziggy, YXX, JP Trez, Sincere, Eric Carlson, Wob Bilson, JP Terez, Corby Holzel. All right, Daniel, all the rest of you guys. We'll see you later this week. Have a really good one. Accumulate that Bitcoin. Keep it rolling. Shane Hansen. Love all of you guys. We'll see you in the Discord, chatting it up. Dusto. We love all you guys. Grab that NFT. It's in the OG chat right now or the community tab. If you're a member, if you want to be a member, just join right in. Big Boy Crypto in the chat. Jared Press. JMZM Crypto for Liberty. Mike Volmer. See you guys next time.